Hey guys, welcome to the Sunday video. We're out in the garage today tinkering around on the Mazda, and welcome to the Sunday video. Today we're talking about brake tools. Alright guys, so like I said, today we're talking brake caliper tools. Now brakes is probably one of the easiest and most cost-saving things that you could do yourself on the DIY. If you're a guy that doesn't want to bring his car to the shop for every little thing he has to do, brakes is one fantastic thing that you can do on your own to save yourself quite a bit of money. Relatively simple to do, and if you have just a few of the right tools, it can be pretty simple. Now, one of the problems that you may run into is to have a stubborn caliper piston. So you all know that when you take your brakes apart, you do rotors, whatever, put new pads in, you have to push this piston back because the old pads were going to be worn out, the new ones are going to be thicker. This has to be pressed back into the cylinder bore of the caliper so that you can put it over the rotor and your new pads. So most of the time, most people will just grab a channel locks or a C-clamp and use that to press this back together. Now there's a couple things wrong with that. One, I found, depending on what kind of car you have, sometimes a channel locks doesn't apply even pressure to this piston and it'll kind of get bound up and it doesn't want to press down nice. All right, you also have to have a pretty large C-clamp to be able to do that. The other, probably less common, but most severe issue that I've found with using a channel locks to push back your caliper piston is that some of these cars nowadays are coming out with caliper pistons that aren't metal. It's not plastic, but it's a composite, synthetic, whatever, material that's similar to a plastic, and I actually had this happen to me before I bought my special tool, and I was pressing a caliper piston back. Looks like metal, is not metal. It literally just exploded. And I was like, what? So I think it was on a Chrysler, and I was pushing the piston back and it cracked, so I ended up having to replace the caliper. Obviously didn't charge the customer, but had to put a new caliper on it, which is kind of a nuisance, then you gotta bleed it. So I picked up one of these. This is a simple caliper tool, but when you're on flat rate, you're on commission, it makes your job a lot faster and it's a lot easier. This circle on the end there is what's actually going to press the piston into the caliper, and it just applies more even pressure, so you don't have to worry about breaking. You don't have to worry about shattering your piston just like that. If you end up having one of the cars that now apparently metal wasn't good enough, so they have a synthetic piston for whatever reason. Anyway, so this tool, obviously pretty simple. Caliper press tool, and you just squeeze the trigger, that pops out of there, and when you're done, you pull on this back, you push this button down, you pull this, and it releases. So it looks like there's a shape of a brake pad in there. You hook that into your caliper just like that, and away you go. We're gonna save this, we're gonna push this back, but we're gonna use our own tool. Because in today's video, I'm gonna show you how to make one of these tools for a fraction of the price. Now, I realize, so this one is, I believe, made by Lyle. Lyle makes a lot of these brake tools and sells them under lots of different names. Blue Point has it, Mac has it, Matco has them. This one doesn't have a name on it. I picked this one up from Napa. And like I said, it makes the job a lot quicker, a lot easier, and it's just all around a smoother process when you have this tool. Price-wise, this is one of the cheaper tools, right? I bought this at Napa and it was a little dinged up. The paint was scratched, not that I care. So I think I paid $50 for it, but regular price on this tool was about 75 bucks. Now, if you're a DIY, do-it-yourselfer, maybe you don't want to spend $75 on something you're not going to use that often. For me, it's worth the money. But like I said, that's a cheaper one. I've seen these on the Snap-on truck that are slightly different, but the same tool, for $180. The Mac has them for like $150. It's just insane. So you don't want to spend that kind of money. I'm going to show you today how to make this tool for around $15. Let's get started. So essentially all this tool is a caulking gun. So that's what we're going to use today to make one of these tools. Like I said, that one cost me about $45, $50, and it was on the scratch and dent. It's normally like a $75 tool. This guy right here, this caulking gun, this was about $15 at my local Menards, so they're also easy to find. Now, when you do this, there is a lot of different variations of the caulking gun. This one is a little bit nicer model. It's actually made out of aluminum, not just cheap press stamped steel, and you can see that the rod is smooth. This is a smooth rod design. For this build, you don't want to buy the one that has the teeth in this rod here, the ratcheting design. You want the smooth rod. And I'm going to pan over and we're going to show you how this is basically the exact same thing. You can see functionally by design how that works there, and then this is obviously your release. You pull it back. This caulking gun is exactly the same. Pull your trigger, it moves the rod, press this, and get this release. So what we're going to have to do is get this assembly off. So for this project, I've laid everything out that you will need to complete this build, and obviously you need the caulking gun, then you're going to need some various drill bits, a drill, a socket and a ratchet, 2 bolts with matching nuts, a screwdriver, an old brake pad, and an angle grinder. And that's it. Let's get started. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is start taking this caulking gun apart. So obviously we don't need this huge barrel here for our caulking tube to go in. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to cut this off with my angle grinder. So I'm going to make a cut on this side, flip it over, cut right on this side as well, and get this barrel out of the way. Alright, so that was our first step. We got the barrel cut off of there, now we're able to continue. There's a nut right on there. This one happens to be a 14. That's where your wrench is going to come in. Take that nut off and take that little circle plunger off of the caulking gun. Take that off, set it aside. Alright, so now we're basically left with the shell. The spring on the inside is still there. The spring on the outside with the little release lever, that came out, but that's no big deal. We can put it back on its post in a minute. We had to take that rod out so that we can get in here and get our brake pad onto this gun. That's going to act as our stop. If you remember looking at this one, it looks like there's a brake pad on the back of it, essentially. So that's what we're going to be doing next. We're going to take a used brake pad, an old one, and we're going to put it on the back side of this caulking gun back here where we cut, and that's going to act as our stopper. So that's our next goal. We're going to take our brake pad. This is where your drill bits come in. All right, so here's my old brake pad I'm using. I'm going to drill a hole in the center of this so that we can fit it over that rod for the caulking gun. So go ahead, start with a small bit, drill a hole in the center, and then gradually build up until you can slide this rod through that hole. Alright, so here's our brake tool. You can see we have the brake pad on there, and we got the rod back in the hole. So we're going to bring this over to the Mazda. I'm going to show you exactly how it works. One change I did make, I've never made one of these before. I just saw this at Menards. I actually needed one, so I picked up a second one so that I could make this tool because I thought it'd be an interesting video. But one adjustment I made is instead of using the bolts, I actually just used zip ties to hold this thing into place just because it's a little easier to take apart. And then you don't have to drill into this back cup. And that way, if you want to redo this pad at some point or change it out, it's just a little bit easier to take apart. So the zip tie, obviously the brake pad is through the rod, so it's not going to go anywhere. The zip ties aren't structural. All they do is hold it so that it doesn't move around as you're trying to use the tool. So we're going to head over and show you how this works. Alright, so we got the tool and we got the Mazda here. As you can see, this caliper piston, when we install our new brake pads, we need to push this all the way back into the bore so this can fit over. So we're going to take this, you just line up this brake pad with the caliper just like that so it stops it, and then we're just going to squeeze the trigger. Keep going, keep going. And it's slowly going to push that piston all the way back in. Then when you're done, just push this lever, push the gun forward, piston is back in the bore. It's that easy. And like I said, obviously this isn't as pretty as my Lyle one, but it is essentially functionally the exact same tool. So if this isn't something you do all the time, this is a great option for you. Make your own. It'll only take you about a half an hour, and this caulking gun cost me about 15 bucks at Menards, so it was really cheap. Obviously the old brake pad was free, and you got a couple zip ties, and you have essentially a $75 brake tool that you can use on your own just to make your life a little bit easier. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope this video helps you out just a little bit, makes your life just a little bit easier. Shift, Wrench, Repeat, we upload every Sunday, Monday, and Thursday, Monday being our discussion video. We're trying to reach a goal of 500 subscribers, you guys, so if you could help us out with that, drop a comment down below, share your favorite video, whatever you do. If you want this, if you want to make one of these, I'm going to be giving this one away. So if you want this tool, make sure to drop a comment down below. Let me know what you did to help our channel grow, and I'll send this to you. If you want a brake caliper tool and you don't want to have to make one, now you can just have this one. So thanks again, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time.